Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. I'm Olakunle Kasumo. Last week we started to show you excerpts from our Meet the Authors Forum. It was all about 3 authors, 3 fascinating books, 60 invited guests, and lots of insight on Nigerian history. The session left many of us wondering why there seems to be so little value for history in Nigeria. For those who missed the event, worry not. We decided to serialize it, and so we'll be continuing with the second part today. Enjoy this. There seems to be a conclusion, correct me if I'm wrong, in the 3 books, or an insinuation in the 3 books, that the way the British established, structured, built Nigeria to a very large extent has led to some of the many challenges the country has been having since 1960, whether it's military, whether it's economical, whether it's political, and so on. I noticed that in the 3 books. So what's your take on that? I'd like to have a view. Let me start with Mr. Owen.
Even though I've already been explicit, you want me to hang myself further? Okay, here goes. I pull no punches. Britain made Nigeria. Nigerians did not make Nigeria. Britain made it. It's the product of design, intelligent design to achieve an outcome. These are intelligent people who were experienced in colonial construct. They already had the colonies in America. They already had the colonies in India. They had experience to build on. And so when they were putting this country together, Nigeria as we know it, it was not the product of absent-mindedness, it was the product of conscious decisions. They know it, they've written about it. And indeed, that is what I share in the book. I pull out extracts from materials that they themselves have written. You can't go further than the confession of the actor. To the extent that they've confessed, then we must familiarize ourselves with that confession. Nigeria was made by Britain. It was shaped so as not to work. It was shaped so as not to work because the object was not charity. They did not come here to do charity. They came here for profits. They came here to extract. You can't criticize them for that because that was the way of the world. What my book brings out is that the First World War and the Second World War were both about colonies. Germany did not have the territories because Germany was not involved in the slave trade in the same way as Britain, France, Portugal, and Spain. So when Germany came onto the scene, all the lands had been grabbed. So the Germans now took, strategically, Bismarck took a few slices next to the main British colonies because Bismarck realized that Britain was the one that needed to be dealt with. They'd already defeated France in the Franco-Prussian War in 1870. So it was Britain that they needed to face. So it was all strategic. It was all what resources are available in this territory. We can't take the slaves out any longer because slavery has been abolished. And I explained the real reasons for abolition of the slave trade, not what we were told that it was they suddenly realized it was evil. They knew it was evil. Those who knew it was evil, they knew it was evil. But it was profitable. But then when they lost America as a colony, because America was the main repository of the slaves that they were extracting, they now had to think, what are we going to do with the territory? And that's when the colonial concept now started taking form and taking shape.
Well, I actually take a slightly different view. And I take that view in relation to what I still regard as my primary constituency, the Army. Up until the 1st of April 1958, as I said before, the Nigerian Army was part of the British Army. And I would just like you to consider what the standards were when the British ran the army and what happened after control of the army passed to Nigerians. So prior to the 1st of April 1958, the candidate who was aspiring to become a commissioned officer had to pass the following tests. First, he would pass a general written examination. Then he would have a medical examination. That would be followed by an interview at district headquarters, then an interview at army headquarters. Then he would go on a 6-month recruit course at Teshi in Ghana, or Gold Coast as it then was. He would then have to face a final selection board at Teshi, following which he would go on a 4-month officer cadet course at Eaton Hall or at Mons. Then he would sit the regular commission selection board, and then finally he would have the 18-month course at Sandhurst. That's what he had to go through. It was not unknown for Nigerian candidates to fall at any of these hurdles up to and including the penultimate one. But by contrast, the British candidate did not have to pass 2 selection boards, nor did he have to attend a recruit course, nor did he have to go to the officer cadet course at Eaton Hall before going to Sandhurst. It is therefore not a surprise, actually, that the first generation of Nigerian officers who went to Sandhurst were absolutely bloody brilliant at what they did, because they had been put through the mill in order to get where they were doing. Now, the British didn't do this because they were benefactors who wanted a first-class army. They did it because they were in no hurry to produce Nigerian officers so that it would continue to be staffed largely by British Army officers. Now, 1st of April 1958 happens. Nigerians take over. And what happens? Well, prior to that, the educational requirement for potential officers was 4 O-level credits, including English. In September 1959, that was reduced to 4 O-level passes. And the maximum age for enlistment was increased from 22 to 25. In 1961, in May, the educational requirement was further reduced to permit the recruitment of candidates with a teacher's grade 2 or Royal Society of Arts stage 2 certificate. NMTC, the Nigerian Military Training College, which was the forerunner of NDA, was set up, and it started taking candidates in April 1960. In April 1961, it was decreed that henceforth 50% of all cadets must be from the North, and that this would apply both to the initial selection and to the final pass list, whatever the order of merit might have been. In other words, it was now possible for a Northern cadet to make the final pass list above a Southerner who may have been above him in the order of merit, but it was not possible the other way around. That had absolutely nothing to do with the British. That had everything to do with Nigerians.
I see they're not happy to clap about that.